My name is Father Anthony Muituria. I'm the National Coordinator of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops Seminaries Endowment Fund. I coordinate the activities of the fund nationwide, and my work is to try and involve everybody in the country in contributing and growing this fund that the bishops set up in 2018 so that we can be able to fund our seminaries. I've been a priest for the last 26 years. I was ordained in 1997. I have worked most of my priestly life in the Archdiocese of Nairobi, briefly in a parish, and for quite a bit of time as the financial administrator of the Archdiocese of Nairobi. And now I have this assignment to run the Seminaries Endowment Fund. So what inspired the creation of the Seminaries Endowment Fund are mainly two reasons. The first is that the church in Kenya depended largely on external funding to be able to run the seminaries. And the second reason is that with the depletion of this external support, we've had need to be able to raise money locally in order to be able to run our fairs, renovate the seminaries, and keep basically the seminaries in good condition so that they can be good places where the seminarians can prepare for their priesthood. A large part, the greater part of the external funding came from the Vatican. The church used to give subsidies to the local church in order to support the running of the seminaries. And with time, it has become apparent that the church in Kenya is now considered mature enough to be able to run its own seminaries. So now we cannot rely on the funding that we were getting from the Holy See to be able to run our seminaries. The current conditions of the seminary are that, first is the seminaries are in dire need of renovation. The old St. Thomas Aquinas, for example, is now celebrating 60 years of its life, and there has been no major renovation in those 60 years. Other seminaries have a great problem of space. When we say that the seminary is small, we mean that it just cannot accommodate the people who want to get into the seminaries. We have, in a given year, up to 200 people who want to join the seminary. St. Mary's Molo has a capacity of 75. So we are forced then either to turn people away or to look for alternative situations. So St. Mary's Seminary Molo has become too small to accommodate all the people who want to join the seminaries. Many of the seminaries have very old infrastructure, which are not in line with modern trends. Makes it therefore very expensive to run and also very difficult to run because we're using very old, let's say, equipment or infrastructure to be able to run our seminaries. We don't have modern kitchens in our seminaries. We don't have proper heating systems for our water and everything. So all those are things that need to be done with time. The one alternative solution that was found, for example, this year is that some of the students who are supposed to be in Molo are now at St. Thomas Aquinas, which is actually a seminary where they study theology. So we have 40 students who are supposed to be in Molo who are being housed and taught at St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary. And as the numbers grow, then we'll still have to look for other solutions which are not very easy to come by. So the easiest way would be just expand the capacity that we have at St. Mary's Molo, and then we can address that issue. About the equipment that we have in the seminaries, for example, we don't have modern kitchens. I had mentioned that. We still use firewood to cook in this day and age. We don't have proper heating systems for water, so our boys have to take cold showers to be able to start the day and things like that. So we would like to improve things like that so that they can be more comfortable in the seminary. So in the seminaries we have two levels of staff. So we have the formators, what we call the formators. These are the priests who teach and help the young men in their journey towards the priesthood. We would do with more. We have limited numbers. We would also need to invest more in their training so that as time goes on, they keep training and keep improving their skills. So those are gaps that we have at the moment. And then we also have the other staff, administrative staff, who help in the running of the seminary, people who work in the offices, people who work to keep the compound clean, people who cook and so forth. Even that is something that we would like to increase and also improve their level of qualifications so they're able to do a better job while being in the seminaries. If you ask any priest, and I can say that for myself, your experience in the seminary is very important in how you live your priesthood. I've been a priest now for 26 years, and I know that many things I still refer to the things I learned in the seminary. How to maintain a sacristy, how to deal with your priests, all those things are things you pick up in the seminary. And probably because you stay for many years in the seminary. In Kenya, you spend 8 years in the seminary. So in those 8 years, and you come at an age when you are still very ready to be formed, you pick up a lot, and that stays with you a lot. So the kind of formation that you give in the seminary is so important because it stays with the person all their life. Well, the main reason why you need very well-formed priests is that you need priests who reflect the person of Jesus. Okay, Jesus is the person who is a priest par excellence. He's the one we look up to. So what you're trying to do in the seminary is to form somebody in that image. And that's the image that he's then going to carry out into the world. And that's the image that's attractive. And that's the image that the world needs today. Many people are looking for an attractive image that they can imitate and they can follow. And we would like the seminary to be at least the place where the foundation is laid for that to happen. It's true that formation goes on well after seminary life, but what you receive in the seminary is a crucial point in deciding how your life will be lived out after that. And that is the only way that we can keep the faith alive. That's the only way we can make people appreciate the value and the beauty of our Christian life. The world we live in today is very unique in a sense. Unique because the level of contradiction that we receive on a day-to-day basis is mind-blowing. Probably something unprecedented and never seen in the history of mankind. You have today, unlike 20, 30 years ago, people who don't know whether they're men or women. We have today, unlike 20 years ago, who morality is questioned in every aspect. We have today people who don't believe in God anymore. We have today people who think they can decide for themselves how to live their lives. Okay, that's generating a lot of confusion. It's generating a lot of difficulty. Maybe that's the reason why now we are having to face many mental health issues, because there's just too much contradiction, and a normal person is not able to harness all that, to handle all that. So that's the reason why a priest, a well-formed priest is so important, because then you have a definite direction that you give to people. And that's what people need. They want a good direction for their lives. And you have somebody who's well-formed, then he's able to distinguish what is right and what is wrong, and to be able to direct people in the right direction. My seminary life was probably one of the best parts of my life. We lived very well. We ate very well. The place was sparkling clean all the time. I never had to do my laundry. It was done for me. We had a wonderful team of formators who really took great care of us, were concerned about us. We had every week you had to meet one of them to discuss about your progress in the seminary life. That was always very beautiful. The music in the chapel was something to behold. We had very talented people who played different organs. So you'd create a whole symphony of music that was something out of this world. Everything was very professionally managed and very well managed. And that's something I think I would love for our seminarians to experience, because it is something that it was nice. And as I say, I always look back to those days and say, this is what I would like a seminary to be. I had the privilege of being in a seminary in Rome, so that is where I got to experience this. And if it's something that we can experience or we can replicate here, well, don't have to repeat everything, but if you can replicate something, I think it's something that is worthwhile. So that experience in Rome is something that it would be nice to, in some way, replicate in our local seminaries. It's an experience I think the local seminarians would have. And it's a privilege I had, which not too many have, to be able to enjoy such kind of seminary life. It impacts you in very many ways. It impacts you in the way you celebrate the liturgy. It impacts you in the way you set out the place where you stay and live, because you have something to, an image or picture to refer to. It impacts in the way you just little matters of etiquette is something that it impacts you a lot. It impacts you in the way you relate to other people. You get to meet many people from many different parts, and that helps you also deal with them as you should. And then there's the beauty also of just opening your world to many cultures, which you would otherwise not get a chance to come into contact with. And again, in the seminaries here, we have people of very different cultures. Although we're in the same country, it's very different. Somebody coming from the northern Kenya, somebody coming from the coast, and somebody. So you have to find a way to live together and develop a common culture that can help you live together. I like to use the comparison of a simple kiosk and a five-star hotel. When you go into a simple kiosk, you behave in a certain way, and you behave in a very different way when you go into a five-star hotel. And it is instinctive. It's just that we human beings tend to adjust almost instinctively to the environment we find ourselves in. You behave a bit better in some environments. You behave less well in other environments. I think it's something like that. These are things that you end up reacting to things instinctively because of what you've been exposed to for a long time. So if I'm exposed to difficult life for a long time, then I guess I face the world like the world is a difficult place to live in. If I, on the other hand, have lived in a world where you could say it's not as difficult, then I also tend to look at the world with more optimism and with a more positive outlook towards things. So that's what would like to have, so that you can actually look at things positively as we approach the world. And we want to create that environment for the seminarians. Well, for the students who are doing the spiritual year, who are here in Molo, instead of being in Molo, then what happens is that the first year of seminary life is usually a very intense year. So intense because you want to kind of shut off the world you've just left, and you want to focus on this important decision that you're going to make for the rest of your life. So the first year of seminary life is very important. You learn many things, you're taught many things that probably you've never heard of before, and you want to assimilate that in deeply and think about it deeply. So that's why they tend to be secluded with themselves. Okay, some of the things that you would normally enjoy, like mobile phones and televisions, those ones are put on the side so that they can reflect more deeply on their vocation and their calling to the priesthood, and so that they can also reflect more deeply on the person of Jesus, whom they are called to imitate. That's really what the purpose of the first year is meant to give. The seminary in Molo has a capacity of 75. We had over 150 applications, actually close to 200 applications for people to join the seminary. So some unfortunately had to be turned away. Others who were good candidates to join the seminary and could not fit in Molo are now being housed in St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary and doing their spiritual year together with theologians. Theology is the last stage in the priestly formation. So you have 4 years before you are ordained a deacon. So they are together with people who are doing their last stage of a seminary formation. Currently, we have close to 15 million Catholics in Kenya. We have about 2,700 priests working in the country. So the ratio works out to about 5,500 Christians for every priest. The recommended ratio worldwide is 2,000 Christians to 1 priest, which therefore means we have less than half the number of priests that we require to adequately meet the needs of the Christians. The Mass is the center of the Christian life. That's where we get our nourishment to live our Christian life. That's where we get our strength to live our Christian life. So the longer you are deprived of that, you could say the weaker you are to be able to face the challenges of the Christian life. It is true God can always supplement. He can always give us His graces in many ways. But the normal way is that we go to Mass to receive the food that we need for our soul to grow. Whenever we have offended God in any way, we go to confession and we get our sins forgiven. That's the normal way. Some people are not able to go for a year or 2 because there is no priest around. So those are the challenges that many Christians face. They're not able to receive the sacraments. They don't have the accompaniment, for example, when they're very ill, maybe even death, facing death, to receive the sacraments to assist them in those difficult moments. People who want to get married, they have to devise their own ways to get, they can't have the sacrament of marriage. So that's what we're talking about, is that you can't offer people the services that they need to be able to live their Christian life. A holy person converts the community. A holy person is a person who is a good influence in the community in which we live. So the idea here is, let's try and become holy ourselves and make other people holy, and that will always be felt in the community. Holy people, by definition, always change the community. And that's the whole goal of making people holy, because the community will be better off because of them. They have very positive ideas. They teach us how to love others. They teach us how to care for others. They always make positive contributions to the society. That's what holy people do. This fund will ultimately benefit the society in which we live in, the Kenyan society, and even beyond. But the immediate beneficiary will be the seminaries in Kenya, because where whatever funds we are able to raise will go towards to form the priests. So the seminarians who are in the seminary, the people who make up the seminary community, will be the immediate beneficiaries. But the best way to solve the challenges that we face, and not just this challenge, but any other challenge in society, the best way to solve it is when we come together. Coming together, being united and focused on a single thing, is one way in which we can solve the many problems that we come. First, don't deny that the problem doesn't exist, and then find solutions together to be able to solve whatever it is that we do. But we also try to do it in a fun way. So it's not just asking, but we also would like to make it fun, in that when you contribute, you also enjoy yourself. That's why we organize things like golf tournaments, where people who love playing golf can go and play golf, enjoy themselves playing a game of golf, but at the same time contribute towards a worthy cause. But the important thing to remember is that, first, you're contributing to something that will outlive all of us. The way an endowment fund works is that you never use the principal that you have collected. You always live off the interest that you're making. So whatever shilling you put in there will stay for as long as the fund exists. And that, I think, is something, with a legacy that each one of us can leave. And because of that, you'll be contributing to the good of very many people for many, many years to come. The participation in the endowment fund is really an act of love. An act of love for the church, because you care for the fact that the church has enough priests to fulfill their role. An act of love for the people who benefit from the services of the priests. An act of love for society, because a healthy, growing church is always a good influence to society. So really, the invitation here is to join in this journey of love and to be able to express love. I like calling it in an organized manner. I mean, we all express love in many different ways, but this is now, you could say, a more organized manner in which we're trying to address a very particular situation that we find ourselves in. Thank you to all who have donated to the endowment fund. Thank you all who are planning to donate to the fund. And thank you all who have in any way helped us reach to where we are today and will help us in years to come.